Sunset at a Time by Albino Corn. Act 2, Tempest Gathering. Chapter 8, Dance of Shadows. Sunset's plan had been simple. Find the other half of the broken airship, and they would find their missing friends. Against the backdrop of yellow sand, finding a blue airship was an easy feat. Sunset, Applejack, Pinky, and Rainbow had walked about what Sunset had guessed was a mile before cresting a large dune and spying the front end of the blue moon embedded into the sand. Balloon canvas obscuring most of it from the baking sun. Excited to reunite with their friends, the group rushed down to the wreckage. However, there was one small problem. The ship was empty. They scoured the wreck looking for any sign of three missing ponies and Spike. It was until Sunset used a homing spell and picked up traces of magic they finally discovered something slightly useful. Out in front of the bucket hall, Sunset addressed her friends. Well, Twilight definitely used magic, and seeing as no pony is here, they made it out alive. Leia, where are they? Applejack inquired. Sunset brushed strange bits of sand she had found her way into her mane. Well, my guess is Twilight either used a shield spell upon impact, keeping them all safe, then they went out and looked for us, or a teleportation spell was used. Teleportation? Rainbow slapped her face to groan. Great! They could be anywhere in this stupid desert! How are we supposed to find them? Well, Sunset closed her eyes and thought. If Twilight did use a teleportation spell, I might be able to find what leftover magic of a re-entry point, if she didn't teleport too far away. Well, we got nothing else to go on, so give it a go, Sunset, Applejack said. Sunset kept her eyes closed, a field of teal light cloaking her horn. Beneath her eyelids, the interior darkness lightened to a gray, dull color. Sound and feeling fell away as Sunset brushed against the veil of the astral plane, trying to glean knowledge of where her other friends were. All around her, the world stretched to a void of gray emptiness without a drop of color in sight. She pulled more energy into her spell, winding her reins of vision in an effort to find Twilight's signature within the monotone field. On and on Sunset searched, pushing the edge of her circle of vision further and further, beginning to strain under the effort. She had spread her magical gaze over 2 miles in every direction, still failed to find anything. She could feel her concentration slipping as the gray of the astral plane flickered to the darkness of her eyelids. Sunset needed more power if she was going to maintain her spell, not to mention extend her field of view. Sunset sighed. Part of her was unwilling to do it. The other part of her knew it was a risky idea, given the location. Still, if it meant finding her friends, then Sunset was willing to take a risk. She got to keep it short. Taking a deep breath, Sunset redoubled her concentration, focusing not on her homing spell, but on the flow of energy around her. The gray exploded in a wave of bright yellow light, illuminating the astral plane. Streams of solar energy flowed and spun about, crisscrossing everywhere without rhyme or reason. With a single thought, all the streams gathered and began to swirl around Sunset's incorporeal form, spinning faster and faster, changing from bright yellow to familiar teal of her own magic. Despite the fact that she had changed pure energy into usable magic, it was still dangerously hot. Sunset could already feel her body being rapidly warming up with her use of the sun's natural energy. She quickly turned her efforts back to the homing spell, the walls of the astral plane shooting out and giving Sunset a wide view. She finally spotted a mist of purple light in the far distance, quickly losing color with each passing second as the magic faded away, dissolving back into the aether. Sunset focused on the direction of the mist, memorizing it before she severed her connection with the ribbons of solar energy. She opened her eyes, temporarily blinded by the bright sun. She fell to her knees, feeling woozy and very hot. Well there, Sunset! Applejack rushed to her side, laying a steady hoof on her shoulder. You okay? You were just zoning out there for the longest time. Sunset coughed and smacked her lips, the inside of her mouth and throat feeling incredibly dry and scratchy. Yeah, just spent a little too much magic, that's all. She didn't feel like wasting time or energy explaining her ability to Applejack. Orderly, planks, see if y'all can't find any water in there, Applejack said, pointing back to the maroon airship. Rainbow turned and zipped off without a word, with Pinky close behind. Sunset, meanwhile, was taking in deep breaths in an attempt to cool herself off. Waves of heat still coursed through her body, and the burning sand underneath her was not helping in the slightest. So, did you find them? Applejack interrupted Sunset's breathing with a soft, curious voice. Sunset nodded, pointing out to the distance. About 4 miles that way, she rasped. Rainbow and Pinkie returned, both carrying 2 metal canteens around their necks. This was all we could find, but they're each filled up with water, Rainbow said, tossing one to Applejack, who handed it quickly to Sunset. She snatched it with a hoof and twisted the cap off before drinking its entire contents in one go. The water was lukewarm, but Sunset didn't care. At the moment, it tasted heavenly and quenched her terrible thirst, massaging her throat, cooling off her insides. Sunset gasped for air after completely draining the canteen, right into the edges of her mouth with a hoof. Thank you, she said, looking at each of the 3 ponies in turn. She took the container, making sure there was no water left inside before tossing it away. Getting to her hoof, she said, Come on, we should get going. She pressed onwards across the sand, towards the last location of the purple mist, hoping Twilight and the others hadn't strayed too far, or weren't hurt in any way. How big is the desert anyway? Pinkie asked. Sunset got to the top of a small hill and looked over the mall on sand. Seeing on the horizon was a small point that looked at the very tip of a rock. Very big, Pinkie, Sunset grimly. Very big. Today, Twilight thought that Celestia was a cruel princess. How could she let the sun burn this bright and hot for so long? It had to be 90-odd degrees under the brutal, unyielding ball of fire, and it wasn't even noon. She forcefully trudged through the grainy sea, heading for the rock formation at a distance, desperate for shade. Behind her was Fluttershy, quietly suffering in the heat, while Rarity openly bemoaned their situation. Twilight, again, I appreciate you saving us from that fall, dear. But why did you bring us here, of all places? Rarity's voice answered in a whining tone, which, if it reached that point, Twilight thought she might have to put it in separate set. For the 3rd time, Rarity, Twilight said, trying her hardest to keep the irritation out of her voice. I didn't specifically intend us to wind up here. I just teleported to what I thought was the safest place in the vicinity. I didn't know we were over the San Palamo Desert. You should just be lucky I didn't splice one of us or teleporting to the ground. Rarity let out a huff of discontent. I said I appreciated your efforts, but this is the absolute worst place in all the question we could have landed. The sun is getting to my coat, and my poor mane is going to take weeks to get it all out, and this hot heat is dreadful for my complexion, not to mention all the sweating I'm doing. Oh, I must smell as terrible as I look. Rarity threw her head back and let out a cry of anguish. Oh, actually, Rarity, I think you look just fine, Fluttershy said. Oh, you're so kind, Fluttershy. But come on, admit it. I look like a poor street beggar now, don't I? No, you don't, Spike said from atop Twilight's back. He was lying across her, and, unlike the 3 ponies, he showed no signs that his body wasn't even acknowledging the searing heat. There wasn't a drop of perspiration to be found on him, nor were there any injuries. Twilight came to a sudden stop, trying to remember why she was carrying him. Spike continued his praise, not noticing Twilight's pause. You're still the most radiant, beautiful, talented, and generous mirror in all of Equestria. No amount of dirt can cover that up. Rarity burned a bright red, hiding an eye behind the curtain of her purple mane. Oh, Spike, you're such a gentle drake. You know just what to say to make a lady feel better. Spike gave her a goofy, love-struck smile. Anything for you. Ow! Suddenly found his face in the hot sand, as Twilight abruptly sat down, forcing Spike to roll off her back. What? Why am I carrying you? You have 2 legs. Use them! Twilight practically hissed the last part of her sentence, causing her friends to reel back. Twilight, are you okay? Spike asked. Twilight sighed and rubbed her forehead, quickly stopped, realizing she was just spreading more sand across her face. I'm sorry. This heat is just starting to get to me. We need to find some water or shade, and fast. Spike got up and dusted himself off, then gave a wide gesture with his hands. Why don't you just make some water with your magic? It doesn't work like that, Spike, Twilight said, shaking her head. I need at least some moisture in the air so I can replicate it, make water. But the only moisture around right now is our sweat. Rarity gagged. I think I would rather get heat stroke. Twilight looked down on the ground, staring hard like she was trying to see through it. There's some water beneath us, somewhere. If I can find it, maybe I can bring it to the surface. She scrunched her face in concentration. Horn Elias, she searched through the layers of sand and rock, trying to find a well of water. The probing tendrils of magic dug deeper into the earth, desperately searching for the tiniest drop of water, only to find more dirt. Twilight retracted her magic and flopped onto her back, growling in frustration. Spike leaned over her. So, no water? Twilight's glare was enough of an answer for him. First, I took a seat next to Twilight, flapping her wings like a makeshift fan. I hope Rainbow and the others are okay. Me too, Twilight said, giving Fluttershy the most grateful smile she could muster. When we reach that rock, I'll try another homing spell. Hopefully by then, Sunset will have used at least a little bit of her magic. Fluttershy, why don't you fly up and see if you can spot any of them? Rarity suggested. They might be closer than we think. Fluttershy nodded, seizing her fanning of Twilight, much of the princess's discontent. She jumped up to the sky, climbing higher and higher until she was a yellow dot against the cerulean sky. She descended a few minutes later, shaking her head. I don't see anything that looks like ponies, just the buzzards. Her voice dripped with disappointment and worry. I'm sure they're all fine, Spike said with a dismissive wave. That, I've been there already over that big arc, setting up camp. Twilight got back to her host, using her wings for balance. I hope you're right, Spike. And I hope they have water. Taking the lead, Twilight led her friends further into the desert, ignoring the distant cry of buzzards. Huh. Those birds have been following us for a while, Pinkie observed. Sunset looked up at the 5 birds circling ahead, their features blurred by their distance and the glare of the sun, now resting in the center of the sky. They'd been following the group for the better part of an hour now, though Sunset paid it little mind. Probably just some buzzards waiting for us to drop dead so they could get their next meal, Applejack said, not even bothering to look up at him. Sunset nodded in agreement, returning her attention to their long march. They had covered a good amount of ground so far. The rock spire continued to slowly rise from the ground, revealing a larger cluster of small bluffs around it. It would make the perfect place for camp if they could make it before the sun roasted them alive. So far, every pony had been careful about how much water they drank and attempted to conserve it for as long as possible. The first of the 3 canteens was almost empty. Sunset was contemplating taking another sip without parts their mouth was, as if someone had shoved saltine crackers in her mouth and dared her to leave her in for as long as possible. Trying to ignore her thirst, Sunset kept her mind on other things, like what Las Pegasus would look like when they arrived, or where the other piece of the Dark Regalia was, the Obsidian hoof guards were, and how they would find them. Yet, eventually, Sunset would be reminded of her dry mouth and crave for just the smallest sip of water. As she turned to Pinkie, who had been charged with carrying the canteens, and asked, Can I have some more water? What's the magic word? Pinkie sang. Pinkie! Sunset snapped, her paces drawing thin from the heat. Correct! Pinkie got the strap to the topmost canteen from her neck and handed it to Sunset with a smile. Sunset couldn't understand how Pinkie could remain so upbeat, as he didn't feel like questioning it. She took the container and tossed her head back, letting the cool liquid fall into her mouth. She eyed the buzzards still circling above them. Stupid birds. You just can't wait for us to keel over, can you? Go find something else to snack on. She brought the canteen back down, shaking it a little to confirm there was still a little water left inside. Sunset handed it back to Pinkie and looked out at the collection of rocks. Huh. Those buzzards are kind of a long way out to be looking for a meal, especially when the only thing out here are scorpions. She looked back up and narrowed her eyes, trying to get a better look at the buzzards. Are you sure those are buzzards? Sunset's question was directed to all 3 of her friends. Rainbow followed Sunset's gaze skyward and flew up a little to get a better look. Her eyes widened as quickly dropped to her hooves. Those aren't buzzards, she said in a panicked whisper. Those are griffins! Applejack looked up. Why would griffins be all the way out here? More importantly, why would they be following us? The 4 of them shared a concerned glance between one another. Okay, Rainbow began in a forcibly calm tone. No pony panic, just act natural. Sunset pointed. I think they know we know. Turning out the griffins were slowly descending upon them in a feathery halo. They fly, they dive, and what they dive, they eat. What? I couldn't help it. I was just thinking of Scamper. It's okay, just be cool. Run! Piggy yelled, taking off across the dunes. In a predatory response, the griffins let out screeches against the beginning of a hunt, dove after the ponies and taking off behind Pinky. They slipped overhead with outstretched talons, starboard to knee-like points. Pinky yelled as one narrowly missed a poofy mane, having ducked just in the nick of time. The large griffin soared around and came back for another dive, was Rainbow intercepted by slamming to his side. She had no time to celebrate, however, as another griffin tackled her down to the ground and pinned her by the head. Applejack slid to a stop and ran back to help, only to be blocked by the most slender griffin of the group. And where do you think you're going? Love, she said with an England accent. She had a thin frame, but was armed with various weapons at her side and across her back. Black plumage and purple eyes only added to her lethal look. I'll go help my friend. Now out of the way, Applejack said, starting her charge. Before she could blink, the griffin moved faster than lightning, placed 3 knives at Applejack's throat, one between each knuckle. No, you're not, she smiled deviously. Sunset charged her horn, preparing to bury their attackers in the sand. Something smashed from behind and grabbed her horn, breaking her concentration. No, a rough voice whispered in the ear. No, thought Fossinsky stepped now. Sunset was tossed to her back. Lion Paw pressed to her chest, while a pair of talons still held her horn. She looked up at the face of her attacker, the burliest griffin of the bunch. Several scars adorned his face, and what looked like a recent burn mark ran across his chest, disturbing the symmetry of black feathers. He held his beak into a snide grin. Hello, Poppet. Sunset struggled to his weight, unable to remove his claws from her horn. Kill me or I swear I'll... Don't try and bluff your way out of this, love. I know for a fact you unicorns are quite useless with enough pressure on your horns. The griffin's flanked, the griffin squeezed harder, creating a sharp pain in Sunset's head, making her squirm in discord. To her right, Sunset saw Pinky get thrown onto the ground next to her, another griffin holding her down. Let's go, you big bullies! Pinky shouted. Good time, love, Sunset's holder said. I'm in a pretty good mood, so I might let it go. If you tell us who the princess is. Which one? Rainbow asked smartly, earning her a rough hit on the head with her captor. Don't get cute. You know which one he's talking about. We don't know where they are, and if we did, there's no way we'd kill any of you. Applejack said defiantly. The griffin leader gave a light chuckle. Well, that's too bad, because now we can't kill you. What's a little sign? Really, you lovelies have such pretty faces. With his free claw, he reached for a scabbard at his side and pulled out a short, curved serve to cut the sunlight, making it gleam. But a job's a job. If it's bad, it might get too easy. His cohorts each drew a weapon, preparing to strike down their targets. A sharp wind picked up, limping up to stand to Frazee. The horizon lit up a salvo of purple pinpricks, gunning for the griffins. The beams struck their targets with brilliant flashes, blasting the griffins to the side. Straight beams striking the ground around them, pulling up dust in their wake. The bombardment was swift, ending in a few seconds, sand filling the air. Twilight, Rarity, Fluttershy, and Spike rushed to the field of sand, taking defensive positions around their recovering friends, as their attackers quickly gathered themselves and formed a circle around the group. Well, Lady Griffin said. The little princess came to us. I should have expected much. Twilight glared down. Behind her, friends stood and fell into position. They're all close circle facing the griffins, their backs to one another. Who are you? What do you want with us? My name's Liza, Lear said on his mock bow. It's an honor to meet you, Your Majesty. You see, we're the crew of the Deathwing, mercenaries for hire, and we've been tasked to acquire you, and specifically get her. He pointed at Claw Sunset, who stood next to Twilight. Sunset growled over her horn, steeling herself for a fight. Who hired you? Vesper Radiance? Razor scratched the side of his face, a small smile pulling at his beak. Vesper Radiance? Never heard of her. He raised his scimitar, pointing at Twilight. Now, let's make this nice and easy like that. You two come quietly, and we'll let your friends go. Not gonna happen, Rainbow called. Her back was to the razor. Her focus was instead on one of his lackeys. We're not giving any of our friends to you. Yeah, loyalty. I admire that. Unfortunately, that does mean we have to kill the rest of you lot as well. He managed to lunge, but both Twilight and Sunset were quicker. There were two flashes of magenta and teal light before a roaring wall of sand erupted around the ponies, blocking them from the griffins and reaching up towards the side. Twilight shielded her eyes from the grinding grips of gravel, looked at Sunset. How did you know I was going to do that? Sunset shrugged. It was kind of the only mood we had at the time. So he looked at the miniature sandstorm they created around themselves. We can't stay here forever. What do we do now? We have to teleport out of here. Twilight said over the hissing sand. Sunset looked at her, to the rest of the group behind her. We have to make a few trips. No, Twilight shook her head. We could do one mass teleportation spell to take us to the rocks. Are you crazy? Sunset asked. You know how dangerous that is, right? We could do it. If we put our magic together, we could teleport all of us at once. It's not that far. But I've never seen the location. Blind teleportation is one of the worst things you could do. Twilight gave Sunset a pleading look. Just trust me, Sunset. You could do it. Sunset bit her lip. Tari could see all the worry expresses her friends wore. She only teleported 2 ponies at once before. She had seen pictures of what happened to ponies who didn't teleport successfully. But Sunset knew the sandstorm couldn't protect them forever. The Griffins would have tried to murder them the second it faded. Am I like the only person in some of these epic fanfics that want to give the ponies a chance to kick ass? I swear, I feel like I'm the only person who, I was writing this scene. Those Griffins would be getting their asses handed to them. Yeah, it bothers me. I mean, come on, writers. You have speed demon, strength, complete chaos, archery, healer, mate. Use them. It's like being at a party with a Senshi and deciding, the Senshi can't do a dang thing. Let him walk away. Sorry. The fic's great and all. I just get annoyed by this. Seeing no other option, Sunset took a short breath, trying not to swallow any of the sand swirling around him. Alright, Twilight, let's do this. Get close to us, everyone, Twilight instructed. Okay, Sunset, just relax and focus. Just try to picture all of us as close to the rock formation as you could put us. It isn't that far. You could do it. The ponies gathered around Sunset and Twilight. The former took a deep breath this time, closing her eyes and trying to visualize a magnified image of the rock formation in her head. A familiar teal glow enveloped Sunset's horn, complementing the purple glow radiating out of Twilight's. The two mares stepped forward, bowing their heads till the tips of their horns touched. Sunset felt her magic combine with Twilight's, a feeling of pure warmth draping over her, before the entire world lurched from underneath her hooves. Sunset felt herself hurtling through space at unholy speeds, feeling every particle of her body before landing face first in the sand once more. She raised her head and spit out a mouthful of gritty earth. Examining the area, she noticed that the sand was thinner here, feeling patches of dry, barren soil. Sunset looked up and saw in front of her a labyrinth of stone, varying shapes, sizes, and positions. Some were tall pillars of rock, while others were formed into canyons and ravines that rose up before her. Turning to her friends and seeing they were uninjured, though a little disoriented, Sunset beamed in triumph. She felt a hoof on her shoulder and looked to see Twilight giving her a toothy smile. Told you could do it. Sunset opened her mouth to respond, but Spike tugged at her tail. You might want to see the celebrations for a bit. Look! He said, pointing out to the distance with a claw, though his expression already told Sunset everything she needed to know. 5 large dots could be seen in the sky, heading straight for the location. Though their forms were still blurry, the screeches the Griffins released could still be heard clearly. Now, I'm going to be fair here. Other fanfics actually do let the girls fight. Surprisingly, those are some of the best ones. But I mean, when you get a good fic like this going, and then they decide, maybe we should let Twilight hide. It just irks me. On a personal level, like, what? Look, everyone, we have to find someplace to hide, Twilight said, earthing them all into the Callisto stones. Sunset obeyed, although he was uncertain how well this plan could work. Griffins were natural hunters, and while there were plenty of nooks and crannies he could squeeze into, nothing around could be certain a good hiding place for a predatory creature. He ran deeper into the complex. Walls of sandstone, at least 2 stories high, rose on either side of them. Pathways twisted and branched out, distorting everyone's sense of direction. Though from an aerial view, Sunset knew they could be easily spotted. The paths were fairly wide and provided little safety or camouflage. Camouflage, I wonder, Sunset muttered under her breath. As he noticed a particularly flat wall came to a stop. Oh no, don't tell me that this is the reason for the running. Everyone wait, I have an idea. Get as close as the canyon wall we can get. The ponies gave each other questioning looks, but decided to follow along anyway, pressing themselves against the flat stone. Sunset joined him last, pulsing back against the wall as far as she could. Raised her head skyward, released a pulse of magic, and came down a teal sheen, coating them and tinging the world in blue. To be fair, though, this is far more better than most of the other bad fanfics I read where they decide to have the girls run. Look at you, One Piece and Mikey. That's your plan? Rainbow said irritably. Another shield spell? It's not a shield spell, Sunset said with equal annoyance. Now shut up and don't move. She heard Rainbow huff, but otherwise fell silent. The minutes slowly dragged on with no sight or sound of the griffins. The entire desert was silent, not even the wind breathed. Sunset was beginning to think her plan might have worked, until a shadow flew from the ground, not far from their position. 2 griffins stomped down to the desert floor, kicking up clouds of dirt. They thankfully drifted away from the cowering ponies and dragon. Ooh, if I could only just tell the author, rewrite this! Have Rainbow move faster! Have Applejack punch one of them in the nads! Have Twilight use Fireball! This is the problem when you've read more fighting manga than you care to count. You don't buy into this, oh, we should hide bullshit. You'd rather just go, let's kick some ass! Maybe that's my problem. I don't want to hide. I don't like my characters hiding. Last one, when Sunset identified his razor, clicked his beak angrily. I know I'll smell ponies around here somewhere. Keep an eye out, Eliza. Might be trying to pull some pony trick on us. Aye, Captain. Eliza, the only female griffin seen amongst the mercenaries, saluted. They both began prowling. The ground, talons gently tickling against the rough dirt, while the back lion paws barely made a sound. So far, so good, Sunset thought, as the pair marched right past them, occasionally stopping to sniff the air. Eliza would stop and wiry legs in the griff's direction. When Sunset knew all she would see was the face of stone behind them. Curse this desert air, Sunset Razor growled. Must be messing with my senses. Swear those points will be right here. The sound of wing beats drifted through the air as the 3 remaining mercenaries dropped out of the sky, sending more dirt scattering to the wind. Can't find any of them, Captain, one of them reported. Cultists up the left, Razor said. Those couldn't speak. Hunted down plenty of unicorns. And none of them could ever teleport that far. Well, the bloody desert. Well, this one is a princess we're dealing with, Eliza said. Don't care, I can smell them. Hard to be here. From the corner of her eye, Sunset saw Pinkie climb her mouth shut, pumping her cheeks out, crying desperately not to sneeze. Sunset bit her own lip in cold anticipation. Her camouflage spell could only alter sight, not sound. Her eyes started between Pinkie and Razor, who was slowly inching closer to their location. Pinkie then let out a silent sigh of relief, but Sunset mirrored, only to sense up with how close the Razor had gotten, beak inches away. Camouflage barrier, his eyes narrow with suspicion. A lone rock sailed through the air, smacked Razor in the beak of the head with a satisfying thunk. He gritted his skull and grunted in pain, turning himself around. What the blazes? What's that? Razor asked, moving his beak back and forth along the wall. Damn it! Sunset swore under her breath before pulling back a hoof and connecting it with Razor's beak. Run! She yelled as the illusion around her and friends broke, feeling them to the waiting griffins. They immediately scrambled off in different directions, fastening down the labyrinth of roads. How about we get a good fight going on here? Come on! Rumble! Let's dance! Come on, fight! You're not gonna have a good fight, are we? No. Go ahead. I mean, I'm only reading a cool fantasy story. I expected a fantasy battle. Look, I'm not disappointed at all. Nope, not at all. I'm not. I mean, I'm just reading a cool fantasy-esque story with a really cool quest and watching my girls get into a cool fantasy adventure. I'm not expecting a cool fantasy fight where Applejack punches a Griffith unconscious, or Rainbow Dash using a tornado to disturb a couple of them, or Rarity using rocks to take them out. I'm not expecting it at all. Nope. Not at all. It's not that the rest of this fic isn't good, or the rest of it will be good. I'm totally expecting them to run. Because why would I, a guy who likes cool fantasy battles, be expecting a fantasy battle? See you guys tomorrow.